Hey guys, how's it going? Okay, I'm just gonna make sure that we're here. Okay, we are live. Hello. This is gonna be a fun one. I'm really excited. I have a lot to share. I was just reviewing I made a lot of notes. Sometimes I make a lot of notes. Sometimes I make a little note, a few notes, and I have a lot of notes. So we will see how this goes. I promise to wrap up in an hour or less, but I may need to do a part 2 of this one. Let's see. If you have comments, questions, concerns, questions in particular, please ask. I am being really open and transparent and sharing lots of things that are usually, I don't know, I kind of keep a lot of my business private. And I think that so much of what happened in my business last year has there's so many lessons to what we experienced. And I say we because it was absolutely a team effort from people who support me to my coaches. So today we're talking about, I've never done this before. And now that I'm already thinking of ways that we can do this more, but I'm doing a little behind the scenes today. So behind the scenes in my business last year and what shifted and changed for me. Two main things that I put in the title. One is I tripled my income. And in many ways that was by design, but I had a couple of challenges, one of which was a pretty, what has now been a more than 6 month long neck injury and dealing with neck pain, and how obviously that sort of cramped my style. So we're going to talk all about what happened last year, how I tripled my income, mindset, strategy, how I supported my clients, how I changed up my team, what I did differently, what I stopped doing, how I navigated the injury, not from the perspective of getting, somebody to work on my body, which I did, but how did I deal with that in my business, right? So I'm going to talk all about that. So if you have a question, if you're live, say hi. If you have a question, as you have a question, please let me know. And if you are watching the replay, please just tag me and drop a comment, and I will come back and answer any questions or respond to any comments that you have. And again, if I don't get to all the questions today, I might do a part 2. So I'm just going to double check, make sure this looks like it's working. If you're live, say hi. That always helps me know that it's working. It seems to be. Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right, so let me just get back to the comments here. Okay, so how did I triple my income last year? And I did it while also having a neck injury. So I want to talk just for a second about the neck injury, because that's actually not the important part of this process. But I do think it's important to understand how I was challenged. So I'm going to just share that. And then I'm going to go through the whole year and talk about the big changes, or not so big changes that I made, but the decisions that I made. There were actually more big decisions than big changes, and how that led to me tripling my business, tripling my income. And then the other part that I'm going to share as we go through this conversation is, what are the lessons in this, right? How can this isn't just like, yay me, because that's great. I'm happy for me. You can be happy for me, but how can you apply these lessons? These are lessons in business. And I probably could do every single live this year. I go live every Wednesday. I could probably spend every live every Wednesday talking about something that I learned in this process last year. So I'm trying to condense it into one. Let's see. So we're going to talk about the lessons too. So first off, the neck injury, if you're a body person, it was my T1 vertebrae, but essentially it was causing lots of issues. My neck was hurting, right? And most of the time, most of the pain was caused by doing things like looking anywhere other than straight ahead. For the most part, turning to the right and left wasn't a big deal, isn't still a big deal, but looking up and looking down in particular is still incredibly painful. So I don't really use my cell phone. If I do, I prop my hands up on something. But even that, I realized, because I had a lot of muscular issues in my lats and my shoulders, It's this whole neck and shoulder area. One thing would cause another, right? So to lift my phone up to support my neck being, not having to look down, it would tap these muscles, which were very weak and also partly injured. And so that caused a problem. It still does. I don't like to hold my hands up like that. So holding a phone is just really not an option. And typing, so holding a phone, using my phone, typing on a keyboard, clicking a mouse. Again, all of that has to do with the movement of my shoulders and then the position of my neck in space when I do that. When I talk here on Zoom or on live Facebook Live, or when I work with clients one-on-one, I meet with them in Zoom, that has not really posed a problem for the most part, luckily. So how do you run an online business and basically don't go online? It was really, really hard, right? I communicate. So here's the way that my business is structured. I create my own social media posts and plans, and then my team executes them by putting the graphics together, scheduling those posts and getting them out. But I'm the copywriter, which I love to do, by the way. I'm the copywriter. I'm the social media planner. Let's see. I see clients virtually. So I do these Zooms once a week in the Facebook group. I see clients virtually. I use Zoom. So this is how I do it. That wasn't really bad. But the other piece that I do is I support my clients through Basecamp, which is just an app that is sort of like a project management app. It's really fantastic. Highly, highly, highly recommend if you have a team or if you serve multiple clients. It's just a great place where all of your conversations can live, and you can create those separate like conversations with clients. My team can't see my conversations with my clients. My conversations with each client is hidden from other clients. It's sort of a chat. It's also a way to share messages, share documents. And I review documents for my clients, right? So if you're redoing your website, or somebody sent me an email the other day that they sent to a potential client because they were just not sure. So they drafted their email and they sent it to me for feedback. So I'm always reviewing something, document, email, new copy, a list of something, a journal page that they send me a photo of. So I'm always looking at something. So clicking around on my computer, right? Using the mouse clicking around my computer to get to Basecamp was really, really painful. So how do I support my clients in between calls on Basecamp if I can't click a button? How do I communicate with my team, right? I'm communicating with my team in Basecamp. So all of these things pose challenges. All right. So let's get back to just going to double check one thing here. As I use my phone, and I'm not supposed to, just to make sure, because I always get a confirmation that I'm live, and for some reason it's just not showing up. Okay, great. All right, so this is not a conversation about how, I don't believe in, I had to injure my neck in order to finally make these changes in my business, or to really ask for the support that I needed from my team, or to really finally slow down. I don't believe in any of these things, right? You can already start to suspect some of the things I'm going to talk about. I think I'm going to just give you a quick, spoiler alert. I think the biggest lesson that I learned last year is around, oh my God, I just forgot what I was going to say, is around building a sustainable business and knowing and trusting that when you make good decisions for your business, even when, right, because life does not happen in a unicorn, rainbow, puppy dog way. Things don't always go as planned, even though I'm really big on making plans in your business. When something happens that goes off plan, you can stay focused, you can stay the course, you can make adjustments that you need to make and get your top priorities met. And I think that's the big lesson for me last year was, because when let me know how this resonates with you, particularly those of you who were in corporate or had any sort of, and this isn't a hit on corporate, but any sort of career where you were not in love with your work. I was so energetically drained by my job when I was in corporate because it just wasn't, there were so many things that were right about it, but the context of it really just burned me out. And I used to look at people and go, I don't know how you're navigating this like personal challenge or tragedy and keeping a job. I don't understand how you're doing that. All I can do is keep my job and like lay on the couch all weekend to recover, right? And there's a lot of that. I can talk about my corporate career. I learned so many lessons. I have a corporate detox conversation that I had in this group back in May. If you're interested, let me know and I'll send you a link or check it out. It's in the group here. But because I had that history and that sort of like hidden, thought process in the back of my mind, one of the things that came up for me, of course, as soon as this neck injury happened, was like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to keep paying my bills. I'm not going to be able to support my team. I don't know if I can still support my clients because my neck is hurting and I don't know how to deal with my personal stuff and still run a successful business at the same time. Right. So some of the mindset, crazy kicked in. And I think the biggest lesson in this that I learned in my business and that I want to pay it forward and help you to learn, if by no other way than example, and to realize what is possible, is that you can navigate personal stuff and business stuff at the same time. This isn't about doing too much or doing it all or having it all or any of that type of thing, but that one does not mean that it's, just when one thing happens, it doesn't mean that it's going to tear your business down. So whatever that is for you, for me, it was, if something happens in my personal life, I'm not going to be able to focus on business. And that actually was not true for me. And I needed to live that out differently last year, to see it. So hope that makes sense. Let me know. Okay. So I had 4 main things that I had set out to do in 2021. 3 of those 4 I set up as a goal from the very beginning of the year. And then the 4th one was a change that I made in the first quarter, or a big decision that I made in the first quarter. So 4 big decisions around how I wanted to run my business in 2021. And some of those decisions are also changes from 2020 to 2021. So, number 1 was I wanted to focus on my team. At that point in time, I had just hired my first teammate. So back in 2020, towards the end of 2020, I hired my first teammate. So the first big priority for myself and for my business in 2021 was I wanted to focus on my team. I wanted to feel that I was supported by my team. I was really feeling that, and not just feeling like it was real. I was doing too much in my business in that last half of 2020. And I was loving it and I was doing some fun stuff. And I'm really glad that I did what I did by myself, because I know a lot about the back end of my business now that I wouldn't have known if I had just delegated that first off. And for me, that has been very helpful. That's not going to be the case for everyone. It's the timing of when you bring on a team member is really important, to do that specific to you and your business. But for me, that really worked because I like to understand stuff, even if I don't need to know the details, but I like to understand stuff. So that helped me understand stuff and then pass it off. So team was a number 1 focus. I already knew at the beginning of 2021 that I didn't want to just have a team of me plus 1. I knew I could already see the types of things that I would like to get help with, the types of ways that I would like to show up more on social media, which gets to my second decision. And I knew that I wasn't capable. It's not about capability. I didn't have the number of hours and the amount of energy after serving my clients and doing all the things that I was doing to also show up on social media more, to also market myself more. I was doing all that I could do by myself, and I was hitting my head on the max from a perspective of income, from a perspective of impact, and also more importantly, from a perspective of fulfillment, because I was running into that I don't really want to do this thing that I really need to do for my business, but I really just want to see my clients. I really just want to serve my clients. I really just want to bring on another client, but instead I'm going to spend every Friday working on this thing, right? So I was bumping my head up against a ceiling of how my business was not going to be able to grow or scale any further. And I knew that, and I felt it. It's like I was energetically and schedule-wise busting at the seams. Okay. So number one was team. I knew that I wanted to invest time and energy into my team. I wanted to nurture my team, both the people in it and my sort of the way that I was looking at my team and the way that I wanted to spend a lot of time thinking about team, what I wanted, bringing people on board, et cetera. So number one, I decided to focus on team. And I think the impact as we get to the results I think I made my income back. I think it was Q1. In Q1, or maybe by April, I wish I'd have grabbed my numbers. I made the same amount of money that I made in all of 2020. In the first 3, maybe 4 months of 2021, I matched my income already. So if you're worried about and not everybody's business is going to be exactly like mine, but investing in a team member does return. And for me, it was a very, very quick return. I also planned it at the right time. I had a launch in February, all these things. But I think it's really important to understand that one of the first things I did in 2021 was reinvest in my business, energy, time, focus, and of course, money, because I had already hired that one person. So number one, team focus. Number two, I really wanted to up my marketing and my social media presence. I felt pretty good about how things had been going up until the end of 2020, but I was, again, part of where I was maxing out from the number of hours I was spending on my business was I was doing every aspect of social media myself. The number one pain point in the beginning of that year was graphics and using Canva. I can do graphics, I can use Canva, but I'm really slow. I'm not that great at it. I can make stuff look good, but it doesn't mean that I'm very efficient at it. And so that was one of the first people I brought onto my team, was somebody who's really, really good at graphics, who really helped me sort of not even rebrand, but she pulled together all the aspects and elements of my brand in a much more cohesive way. And she took my brand up a notch, or 17. If you go back and look at the graphics from 2020 versus 2021, you'll see the instant difference. So that was really important to me. I didn't want to spend time and energy learning how to become better at graphic design. I wanted somebody who was good at that to do that. And then I wanted to spend more time. I wanted to be more present. I wanted to post more. I wanted to go live here in this group more regularly, and I did. So I had a desire to be more committed and consistent with social media and to increase my presence. And I didn't have a specific goal in mind. I just wanted to post more with more ease and be more present, because that was working for my business. I really enjoy actually writing copy. That's part of my creative sort of mojo. And I love doing these lives. So I wanted to take my social media up a notch, right? Can you see that the team decision and the social media decision went really, really well together? They were kind of one and the same. I knew that I wasn't willing to do more social media until or unless I had a team member. And then the third big decision that I made, not surprising, like most people, I think, I raised my prices. In 2021, well, and my coaching program has changed a little bit too, but I'll just give you some examples of dollars. So in 2020, my one-on-one coaching program was a little different, but the pricing was much lower. So I was charging $3,000 for a one-on-one coaching program in 2020. By 2021, at the beginning of 2021, I changed my rate to $5,000. And then I changed it again sometime in the summer to $6,500. And those were the prices that I had for the rest of 2021. So that's basically double, right? Almost double, 1.5 by getting to 5,000, and then double by the end of the summer. And that helped with several things. First off, the dollars just make sense, right? If I was doing nothing different and staying with the same number of clients and doubling my prices. Now, I also grandfather my long-term clients in. So once somebody joins with me and continues to work with me, when they renew, they don't renew at my elevated pricing. They renew at they lock in their rate. So I still have people that are paying me the equivalent of that $3,000 rate, right? Because I've got people that have been working with me for 1, 2, 3, and 4 years. So that's not a decision that I make to help myself scale. That's a decision that I make every year to offer service to my clients and to give, to give preferential treatment, so to speak. That's not the right word. To give value to the clients that took a chance on me 4 years ago versus now. That feels important to me. So I wasn't, it's not that everybody moved into those new income slots or those new pricing structures, but as new people came on board, they dropped into whatever the pricing structure was at that point in time. So that, again, it did help me with the dollar amount. I think the other, okay, so I'm going to stay on these decisions. I'm trying to figure out like where to go with this. I'm going to stay on these decisions. Number one, I wanted to invest in team. Number two, and spend some time and focus on that. Number two, I wanted to increase my social media preference, but I was only willing to do that to the extent that it didn't burn me out. I had to do it. I was determined to do that in a sustainable way or not at all. And that's my non-negotiable. That's still my non-negotiable. I raised my prices. Those are the three of the 4 big decisions I made at the beginning of 2021. Then I hit a really interesting experience. And I don't think I've talked about this in this group or on a live or anywhere. And I think it's such a learning experience. Yeah, I know I haven't shared it because when it happened, I wanted to wait and sort of absorb it and get all the lessons before I shared it. So at the beginning of 2021, I was promoting my group coaching program. I had already run it twice. I was offering it for a 3rd time. And I took part of that social media presence for me, and including the team in it, was I knew I could take my launch up a level. And I really wanted to have a more cohesive launch. I wanted to feel really clear and planned out around, more clear and planned out than I had in the 1st and 2nd launches of this program. It's called Evolve. And I knew I could take it up a notch if I had some support. So I had a really, really thorough plan around my launch, and my team member and I executed per that plan in January and February. The launch was in February and the program was to begin in March. And so see how that all lines up to these big decisions. Here's what happened. And I think this is just such a lesson. I could do a whole live just on this. I didn't get a single person in my group program last year. Not a single person signed up. I had one person sign up and then something happened to the tech and then they never saw. It was such a funny thing. And I had people looking at my stuff. I had my coach reviewing my stuff and she was like, you're doing all the right things. This all feels good. I had intuitives tapping in. I'm an intuitive. I was tapping in. And the funny thing is it never felt wrong. It never felt like a failure. It only felt like the right thing to do. And yet there was not a single person that signed up. And this wasn't the first time I did it. It was really like the next level of this program. And I wasn't sure what to do with that. But I was really proud of myself for the way that I ran that launch. And it really helped my new team member and I kind of get lined up and kind of, okay, this is how we do things. This is how we don't do things anymore. And, but it was really weird in March when I was planning to be running a group program and I didn't have a group to run. So I was continuing to see my one-on-one clients and I had to do a little bit of an adjustment period in March and decide, what am I going to do? I love this program. Am I going to run it again later this year? What am I going to do? And I ultimately got clear on where my energy drains had been in 2020. And even though one of the greatest joys of 2020 was running that program, it was also one of, I don't want to say it's not, it wasn't even an energy drain. It was an energy level it required a lot of my energy. It was not a drain, but it required a lot of my energy to hold space. And those of you who are practitioners who support groups or support one-on-one, you know this, you know what I'm talking about. It is much easier for me to focus on one person at a time, particularly as an empath and an intuitive, because I'm not just looking at the person and the topic at hand that we're conversing about verbally. I'm picking up on their energy. I'm downloading information intuitively. There's a lot going on just with a one-on-one, but I can do that more fluidly. I love the groups, and that's actually something that I'm really good at. It's one of the few things I brought from corporate into my current practice because I love working with groups. And when I really tapped into how much energy it would require for me to run another group versus to see however many clients would take up the same amount of time or would bring in the same amount of dollars, right? Like whatever that sort of one-on-one group was, when I looked at it, it felt so much lighter to support one-on-one clients. And I knew that in some ways, because I had maxed out my hours of working, et cetera, in 2020, right? In fact, how do I want to say this? I knew that if I instead focused on adding one-on-one clients to my existing client list versus adding a group, right? Because I already had what I was doing at the time. I already had one-on-one clients. All I had planned to do is just do a certain number of one-on-one clients plus a group. If I just changed that to all one-on-one clients, I knew it would be an interesting experiment in how I spend my time, how I like the work, how I like the balance, because in 2020, I really wanted that balance between one-on-one and group. And then last year it was like, I will get to the group again. I want to do that again. And I feel the exact same way I do now as I did 6 months ago. I will get to the group again. I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting go of group work. And I am really loving this one-on-one because I experimented with it. I opened up one-on-one spots that weren't there, that I didn't think I could hold or handle because I was going to be running a group instead. And instead I opened up one-on-one slots. And you guys, the other big thing that shifted for me in 2021 was it was the first year that I was fully booked for the vast majority of the year. I think, so the group was supposed to start in March. I was fully booked by April or May. Now, I had been fully booked in 2020, but it was a different combination. What was fully booked for me back then was group plus a certain number of one-on-one clients plus running my business by myself, right? So that was all the time and space I had. In 2021, I wasn't running my business by myself, so I had extra time there. I wasn't running the group, so I was able to see more one-on-one clients. So my existing group of one-on-one clients was able to grow. And the minute that I made that decision, those people came in, those slots filled at the new rates. They were even more aligned than ever to what I'm doing, where I'm going, the type of work and the type of problems I like to solve in business. And my energy was there, right? And here's the lesson on the failed launch, which wasn't a failure. The launch was a success. It just brought me a different result than I had set out to get, right? I wanted to coach clients, and actually, no, it brought me the same result, just in a different way. I wanted to coach clients and I wanted to bring in more income. I got that. Because every single one of those people who signed up with me in April or May or whatever it was, March, April, May, every single one of those new clients back then were coming in because they had seen something related to my Evolve launch. That is what had brought them into my space or back to my space. I think one of my clients that joined me back then is somebody I had met with in a networking group like 2 years prior. right? So isn't that interesting? The Evolve launch is such an interesting case study in business. And I think it's also such a great lesson in do what you set out to do, keep working the plan. It will work eventually. And it might work in a different way than you planned, but it will work. It doesn't always work when we plan and exactly the way we plan. And sometimes it does exactly that. And sometimes it gives us more, right? I had a client with a launch this month. Yeah, it's still January. This month. And she had 2 people sign up 12 minutes before the group began, right? So like technically the last day of the cart being open was the day before the program began, and 12 minutes, like 9 minutes and 12 minutes before the first session was supposed to start, they purchased. So it always, you know, just because you think something is going to be a certain way doesn't mean it's not going to go that way. And as you know, it oftentimes works out better than you planned or imagined. So do the thing and let go. So that's one of the lessons. Do the thing and let go, right? So what's interesting is because I raised my prices and because I opened up more one-on-ones, I made more money from those extra one-on-ones than I would have with the number of people I was targeting for my group. Now, I'm not running my business just to make $1. So I would never decide to do that only from the perspective of the dollars, only if everything else was the same. But isn't it interesting that I went through this process, I was targeting a group, I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I wanted. So the fourth big decision that I made in 2021 was I made the decision to stay focused on one-on-one for the rest of the year, to experiment with at this level, because I had never been fully booked and not had a group. I had never done that before. I had either been trying to still get fully booked one-on-one, and then instead of getting what I had called back then fully booked on one-on-ones, I had added a group to sort of fill in that space instead. And so I had never just done one-on-one and sat with what's fully booked. And then the other thing that was new for me that I experimented with last year was at that point in time, I had not had a team member to support me, at least in this business. So I needed to experiment with my workload and my client load to know how much am I going to be working now that I have a different number of one-on-one clients, but I also have less behind the scenes work to do. But then I also wanted to add a little bit more to my social media. So it was really hard for me in that sort of transitional time to know if there was anything else I could do. And so here's the other big thing that I did. And this is the other lesson. What I decided to do is stop trying to grow, stop trying to do more, stop trying to bring on more clients. I am, as I set out to be fully booked, I'm doing great financially. At this point, I didn't even realize I was about to double my income, much less triple it, right? Because we're now at like April, May time period. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to swim the seas I'm in for a minute. I'm just going to see how all of this, like, let it all shake out and settle and become a little bit more normal, and then make adjustments accordingly. And I think, you know, okay, yeah. So that's something that I teach my clients. This is a great case study example of how because right, I could have made all those changes and then said, okay, and then I'm going to run a group, you know, 3 months, just launch this group again, 3 months later, I'll get the clients. Well, how do I know that I can manage supporting another group plus all these extra one-on-one clients, plus working with this team, right? Maybe I need more team members. Maybe like, I don't know enough to do that. And this isn't to say, I'm very big on, you don't have to know all the details and make every single plan in place in order to be able to go forward. But one of the things that derails me as a person, and this is about knowing my own style, is when I'm overwhelmed or overworked. I think like most people, but I think I'm a little bit sensitive to this, I just sort of shut down. That's when I stopped going online on social media. That's when I stopped promoting myself. That's when I stopped putting value posts out there. That's when I stopped, whatever the thing is. I have never stopped seeing my clients, but that's when I go to bare minimum. If I feel overworked, I only do what has to be done. And on the one hand, that's, I think, the right approach, but I don't want to set myself up for overwork or overwhelm. And I am sensitive, very highly sensitive to feeling overworked or feeling overwhelmed, because that is how I did middle school, high school, college, and my first career. And so I decided to do it differently here. I decided to keep taking care of myself first. And so even though I was inspired and I loved this group and I could have brought on another client, like I was full and I didn't bring on any more new clients until I knew that I had the time and space. Okay. So those are the 4 big decisions. I'm definitely going to I'm going to have to do this into 2 sections. Those are the 4 big decisions that I made in 2021 that had nothing to do with my neck injury. But I just wanted you to understand like the difference, the big difference. And here's the other big lesson. What was different between 2020 and 2021 is not that I had a neck injury. What was different between 20 and 21 is that I had built a business that was sustainable. I had built a network and a following that was sustainable. And every time you create some sort of result, it continues to compound. Every time you make a connection with someone, whether they'd sign up with you or not, it continues to compound because maybe they send you somebody. And so over time, I had spent time nurturing this group. I had a following. I had people that were interested in what I was doing. And that's why I was so like, wait a minute, I don't know why my group didn't fill up. But if you keep working at what works over time, and at that point I had been in business 3.5 years, it works. Like it does work. And so even though I had this injury, which I want to talk about because I have some real interesting practical suggestions that practical things that we did as a team to make changes because of my neck that I want to share and pay forward. But the truth is, the lesson in how did I triple my income last year? It's because I had a clear mindset, I had a clear strategy, and I just kept executing and implementing the way that I knew how. Yes, I made some big decisions, but I was focused. I was strategic. I wasn't trying to do 75 things at once. I had support. And I just kept my eye on the ball. I just kept going with my plan. That's the real answer to how did I grow 3-fold last year. That's the real answer. Is there anything else I want to say about that? No. Okay, so let's see. And the other real answer is I continued to reinvest back into my business, which means bringing on team. And I want to talk about the team changes I made in the second half of 2021. But that's another big reason I was able to scale at this level. By myself, I for sure would have matched my income. I might have doubled it, but that's probably about it because I didn't have the hours in the day to be open energetically to new clients or to be open emotionally to supporting any additional clients because I was seeing as many clients as I could at that point, emotionally and energetically. You have to, those of you who are coaches and healers and other service providers, you know that when you're holding space for someone's transformation, it's important to preserve your energy. And I don't do more than 3 client calls a day. I work with people for 90 minutes at a time. This is a side note, I keep 30 minutes buffer in between every call. and no more than 3 client sessions in a day, because I know what I can handle emotionally and energetically, and that's how I can show up the best for my clients. And then after 3, or if I have a call after 5, that's the other thing I learned. I used to do evening appointments, and I don't do that anymore because I am not at my peak. Okay. So in June, I injured my neck, and I would say there were kind of 2 phases. There was like the June, July, August phase of, okay, this is a short-term thing. What are we going to do? And then I'll get back on track and I'll be fine. And then there was the like September, October, November, December. Okay, this isn't going away. We need to set up some longer-term solutions. So I want to talk about some of those because, again, I just think some of these are really, really important. Where am I going to start? Okay, so just a reminder, I couldn't click on a mouse without pain. I couldn't use my phone without pain, and I couldn't type on a keyboard without pain. So the first thing that I did in phase 1 in the summer was I had my VA at the time repurpose content. I was trying in the beginning to sort of like write new content or write part new content. And then I would go grab like some old content and say like, let's repurpose this particular one. I would choose it. I was trying to review the graphics and like review our scheduler after she set them up, and like I used to do. And pretty much in the summer, and this is a mindset thing. It's also, I made some very practical decisions, but I just let go, and I think sometimes this is one of those moments where sometimes your body just tells you like, you can't do it like this anymore. Not just because you're injured, but you just need to quit this shit, right? So not that it was wrong for me to be reviewing stuff, but by that point in time, my VA had been on for like 6 or 7 months. Like it was an appropriate time anyway for me to, I didn't need to review everything. I didn't need to control everything, and I didn't need to drive everything. And again, because I'd been in business for a while, because I had lots of content that could be repurposed, that's what we did. So the first thing I did is I let go of that control and I delegated, but I also let go of this idea that I see so much in the online space, which is like, you have to keep generating content. You have to keep posting. You have to post every day. Don't let it go stagnant. What else do I see out there? Like, this is so weird. I'm not seeing any of the comments, and I finally see all these comments. Sorry. I'll get to these comments in just a second. There's so much out there about like how you have to show up on social media. And I agree that like showing up in your marketing, wherever it is that you market yourself, is important. But this idea of like, oh my God, is it okay to just do a B+ job? Like, even the people that are reading my stuff every week religiously probably aren't noticing that I'm repurposing. And if they do, they're probably grateful for a reminder of something, right? It's not like they've downloaded it all into their brain and they remember every single thing that I say, right? Each time you read somebody's post, you get something different out of it. So I had to let go of this like way that I thought it had to be, but which is what I teach people, right? Your message is your message, and like what I learn, I share with my clients, and what I learn from coaching my clients, I have to integrate in my work as well. And it all kind of connects together, right? So I let go of this idea that like I wasn't generating new content, and I didn't generate new content the whole summer. I did go live in this group every single week. So in that sense, I was generating new content. But my VA repurposed everything we put out the whole summer was repurposed, repeated, copied and pasted. I had already used it. In some cases, we sliced and diced it a little bit differently. And I think in some cases too, I think there were certain weeks where we just posted less than we had been in the past. And that was another thing I had to let go of. Okay, I'm just gonna check these comments. Thank you, Barb. Love that I caught this today. So many nuggets I needed to hear. Thank you. You're so welcome. And Barb says, yes, we can have a business and get through personal stuff at the same time. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, sorry that for some reason the comments were not coming out. Why why is Facebook different every time I do this? I'm live every single week. Okay. All right. So in May through June or June through August, we repurposed pretty much everything. And I think we also we did a lot of repurposing between September and December as well. Less so because we had a lot of other ways to do things, which I'm going to talk about, but we did repurpose a lot. And I think that's one of the pieces, because I love writing my own copy and I'm always inspired. And I'd like to put out like, like what's my latest thought now, or, 3 weeks in advance, because I write my social copy in advance. But I don't know if I still believe what I said to you a year and a half ago. And this was also a great example of like, I'm pretty much like still the same person. I'm still the same coach. Yes, I've evolved. And yes, I would like to think, and I think I do, like have more valuable things to say now than I did a year and a half ago. But it's also okay to say to you now what I said a year and a half ago. And so I had to let go of that too. Let's see. Yeah, and then this whole aspect of, I used to review my social media graphics, like just because I can doesn't mean I should, right? It only took a few clicks for me to get into our scheduler and review those things. That was not a good use of my time. It makes my neck hurt just thinking about it. It also helped me to deepen my trust. I already trusted my team, but I think that summer I really deepened my trust in my team. And really it was helpful to hear, and this is another big thing I did last year mindset wise, I let people help me. I let people support me, right? So when it came to this piece, I'm talking around the social media, letting my VA say to me, like, why are you trying to write this? Like, you can't write, stop, get your neck healed. You're just gonna like keep re-injuring yourself. And I've got this. I know, I loved your thing on meditation. I remember this conversation. She was like, I loved your thing on meditation in February. Let's repurpose that. There were so many things that I had said that absolutely could be said again. And there were so many things that I could let people step in and support me with if I just took a step back and allowed it. Because at the end of the day, I really needed it. And I didn't just need it because I had a neck injury. That was my sort of next level of really diving into that big decision I made at the beginning of the year that I was going to focus on team, really diving into that, right? So be careful what you decide now at the beginning of the year. Be careful what you set out to do, the intentions that you set, because you will create ways for you to learn what you need to learn so that you can do those things. And again, I don't believe that I got injured so that I could learn this, but there are silver linings. Okay. So let me go back a couple of just practical things that I would really, really like to share. Man, I'm going to have to do this in 2 sections. So a couple other practical things I want to share. We talked about repurposing content. That's a no-brainer. Like, obviously I would recommend that to my clients, but man, I had to get my mindset around that, right? I know logically that that's okay. But I think too, because I had set out to create more content on social media and to be more present, that didn't feel good to me. But it was the right thing to do. I stayed present. I had somebody reach out and say, hey, I'm loving what you're putting out there. And I'm like, dude, it's so February or so last year, right? Let go, man. Let go of this. Like, I rarely show up as a perfectionist. And this was one of those ways that I had to learn, to let go of the perfectionism. And it's like, it's okay to do a B+ job, guys, or a B- job, or whatever grade you want to give that. So we repurposed a lot. The other thing I did is I made a lot of changes to the way that I communicate with people. I moved a lot of apps. This is super, super practical, but I think this is the reason I'm sharing all these practical things is not because I think that you're going to get a neck injury, but because I do feel that it's really important to take care of our bodies when we work at a desk. So I'm going to keep sharing these things because I think that being as ergonomically set up as possible is always going to serve your body, and that also serves your business in the sustainability bucket. So I moved a lot of apps that I was using on my phone. I use a lot of WhatsApp and a lot of Facebook Messenger to communicate with people from home. And I still do, but moving that over to the laptop enabled me to use, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I also use voice dictation, and then I have a MacBook, the Apple operating system, I think it's called Voice Command. Hopefully I don't activate it right now. Voice Command is what is really, really fantastic. I actually really will continue to use this even after my neck is completely healed. It's doing much, 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 much better, by the way. It allows you to speak commands to your computer to do things like, so that you don't even have to click on a button, so that you don't even have to click on a tab. You don't have to click a button and you don't have to type anything, right? A lot of people know about voice dictation, that you can dictate verbally and it will go into a Google Doc or a Word document or whatever. And that's one of the other things that I did to help get my social media out the door. But voice command was really fantastic, fine, because that's what people use who don't have arms, who maybe are paralyzed, right? That there's a whole accessibility aspect to this that I learned about, which I'm really grateful and happy that it's available. Where I can just tell I'm not going to do it now because it'll turn on, but I can tell my computer to turn that on, and then I can tell it to click, the end button on my live here, or to go into something. So that's a really big deal. And then I moved, so because of that too, I moved some of the apps that I was using on my phone, because that was actually the most painful, still is. I moved all those apps to my laptop so that I could voice dictate, sit up properly, look straight ahead, and voice dictate with my laptop. So that really helped. And then I made a lot of changes in how I communicate with people. With my team, there's two things that we did as a team. I did have the voice dictation to use in Basecamp and other things, but there were weeks where I wasn't even able to do the voice dictation because sitting up at the computer for so long was too much for my neck. Even though it wasn't causing a lot of pain, at some point it did cause a fatigue that I wasn't able to sustain. And so I did a lot of voice messaging with my team. So there's lots of apps out there. The ones that we use that I'd like to share are Voxer. Facebook Messenger has a really nice, if you click the microphone button, you can leave a message. It used to cut you off at 1 minute and then you just leave another message if you're long-winded like me, but now it doesn't cut you off. So you can leave as long of a voice message as you want to on Facebook Messenger. So I had to ask my team to adapt, right? And they were happy to do it. So I started using voice messaging to communicate with people. That made it a lot easier. A lot of times too, the other thing we did on my team is we would have a live Zoom meeting, and they would share their screens, and that would enable me in many cases to review things rather than me having to click around. They could do the quick clicking for me and say, hey, Laura, here's, our scheduler, or here's this post that we want to put out and we want to get your thoughts and have you be able to edit it, whatever it was that I was reviewing. They would just share their screen with me and I could just sit here and be still looking at it, give them verbal feedback, and then they could type it in and make a change and move forward, right? So we got really creative. And there's the other piece about this too, is like, tapping into your team and asking for help isn't just, I need to delegate this to you because I'm injured and I can't do it. It's also like, hey, can you help me come up with an idea of like how we can do this better going forward? How are we going to do this, right? In some cases, my answer was, we're going to not do this, right? We're not going to create new content this week or maybe even this month. We're just not going to do it. We're going to repurpose, right? But then also, what are the things we're going to keep doing and how can we do them in a different way? Technology is set up to support you. There are really ways. We just did a really amazing job of getting creative. So there was the repurposing, the voice dictation. We for sure stopped doing some things. Like in many cases, we posted less often. There were lots of things, by the way. I talk all the time about a back burner list. My poor back burner list got so big. There were lots of things I wanted to do. I haven't updated my website in a year, and I have some things that still feel very outdated there. I had to let go of that. I just had to let go of that. And I think it was a really big lesson in like, first off, for me and my business, my website isn't my primary driver. So while I think it's important for me to have a website and for it to be up to date, it's okay. It was more important for me, and this is where you have to pick your priorities. It was more important for me to post in this group, to be present in this group, to keep going live in this group, to keep showing up for my clients than it was to like worry about my website, right? So I did have to prioritize. That was the other thing I did is I grew my back burner list. Projects that we had on the list for last year haven't been done. And it's okay. I still tripled my income. It's okay. My clients are still doing great. It's okay. I was able to keep showing up for my clients and do the work that lights me up. And I was also still able to go do the fun stuff that I like to do outside of work. The other thing I want to share, we've mostly started doing this towards the end of the year. This certainly did not help me triple my income, but it's a really big project that, not a big project, it's a big decision that I made in consult with my team to help create more sustainability in my business for getting posts out to the masses. One of the things that we're doing is we're taking videos. We might eventually take these big long videos, but I've been recording and sharing some short videos on Instagram now. If you follow me on Instagram, you can get the long videos are here on Facebook group, and the short ones now are going in Instagram. And that's an easy thing for me to do, right? That's a way for me to add content with my mouth, with my voice, without hurting my neck. And then, hey, guess what? We're going to take that and repurpose it. So I have a team member now who is grabbing my short videos for Instagram. We're putting it through, it's called Otter. It's otter.ai. There's lots of transcription services out there. This is just the one we're using. A lot of people also like HappyScribe. We use Otter. So she puts it through transcription. So we get a full transcript of my, 1 to 3 minute short video. And then she takes that and creates a suggested draft post for me to put out into, as a written post on social media. So all I'm doing is recording the video. That doesn't injure my neck. My team is taking my words, creating a suggested post from it. I get to review that, and all I have to do is edit it and send it back, or get it going out the door, send it back to my team to get it out the door, right? So there's lots of ways that you can take something like this and make it work for you. Golly, there was one other thing I was thinking about. Oh, the other thing that we did, this is the other thing that we did, and then I will share the rest in part 2. The other thing that we started doing, and I did this across the board, is we started using the app Loom more often, Loom. So Loom is a great app, and it's free as long as you don't keep too many videos in your account. Once you decide that you want to hold on to some of those recordings, you pay a small fee, but it's really fantastic. So Loom is an opportunity to record voice and your screen. And you can turn off your screen if you want to. So for example, I could record myself talking to you. I could give you a video message right now like this, right? Like, hey, thanks for joining my live, blah, blah, blah. And it would be a video message just like this. Or I could click share my screen, and I could walk around with my mouse. Obviously, this would be something my team would be doing, but I can use my mouse to say, hey, if you click here, it's great for training too. If you click here, this is what you can do. See how this screen goes here. Hey, or my team can say, this is a problem I'm having, with our scheduling system. When I do this and I do this, look what I get. It's not right. What do you think? Then all I have to do is watch it. I'm not having to type to communicate back and forth, click on screenshots, et cetera, everything's just showing up. It's also how I communicated and still am at some level with my clients. So I use Basecamp. I was able to, I'll talk about a little bit more about how I adjusted Basecamp next week or next time. But one of the things that I did is instead of typing out my comments, say on the document that they wanted me to review, I would just open up the document on my screen, click one button of record, and I would record my voice as a, as a way to give them feedback on their documents. That was something that was really helpful. It was also something that I would do in response to messages I received from my clients. So again, I coach people one-on-one, but in between sessions, we communicate back and forth in Basecamp. It's not like you're just off out by yourself. So as my clients send me messages of updates, I want to come back in and say, okay, let's think about it this way, or give them some coaching, online until we meet again, or here's some things you've been thinking about and doing between now and our next session, or yes, I'll review that document for you. Here's my feedback. All of that. If I use Loom, I can record a voice message for them and send it to them that way. So rather than typing a message back, I can send them a message that way. And that has been a huge, 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 huge help. Again, I will continue, because for me, again, this whole lesson around the neck is also around how do you create sustainability in your business? And that's one of the things that Loom was able to do for us and for me in particular, because a lot of times that would be other people would communicate with me in normal ways, and then I would respond via Loom or respond via, Facebook Messenger voice message. That was a really, really, really important app that helped me last year. Okay. I am going to pause here because we are at time. Yeah, I want to talk next time about, I made some changes to how I support my clients. And I think that was a huge mindset challenge for me, because I'm very big on service, very big on client service, very big on giving value. And to say to a client, like, I can't do the thing that I told you I was going to do, like review your document this week because my neck hurts. Oh, I just did not like that. And I also felt that as a coach, I had a responsibility to model good behavior. So I want to talk a little bit about how I supported my clients differently. I want to talk a little bit about my team. I actually made a full overhaul of my team last year. In the middle of this neck injury, which was also very interesting and a challenge, and also perfectly right at the same time. So I had one team member at the beginning of the year. I had 2 team members by August, and then by October, one of those people left, the original person left, and then somebody else came in November. So I now have 2 team members who've been with me anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 months. So we went through that team transition as well last year. And that was, that's a whole big conversation. So I'm going to leave that to part 2. And then I have a couple of other, I've got a whole list of systems that I want to share with you. I've shared some of those now. And I've got a whole list of lessons, some of which I've started to share, some of which I haven't. So I'll keep sharing those with you. I don't think it'll be next week, because I think I've already planned out next week's live, but I will make an announcement when I do part 2 of this conversation, because I just think there are so many lessons here. If you are looking for, before I go, if you're looking for a one-on-one coach, I have 1 slot left. Just to have somebody start coaching with me in February. So if you're ready to start exploring, now is the time. Hop on a call with me. I had 2 slots left a week and a half ago, and one of those is now filled. So I've got 1 slot left. Once I fill this slot, I think it's now my next start date will be for April, I think, is the next time I have available for a new client. One of the things that I'm going to talk about in this second portion is this concept that I had around, can I support more clients? Do I open up more slots for more clients? And I had I'm sitting in the same place as I was talking about before, where I talked about, in April and May, where I was experimenting with my workload and saying, like, that I've never had this sort of whole total scenario before. So I'm going to stay put with my workload until I know for sure that I can support more clients. I'm in the exact same position now. I have 2 beautiful team members supporting me. We are really, I think both of them are really up and running now, but we're also making some changes to the back end of my business because of all the changes that happened last year. And my focus is still to get that up to speed. So I'm hoping that tipping point will shift for me and for my business, and that I'll be able to open up more coaching slots I don't know, maybe in March or April. I already have one, I think, open in April. But this is just an interesting, I'm just being transparent about like, yes, I have one slot available and my hope is to open up more. That's how I can, make more money this year. That's how I can make more impact this year. That's how I can bring more joy into my business. And I'm walking my talk. I'm doing the same thing that I did last year because it worked for me. I never felt last year that I was working too much. I always felt that I was working just right. And so I always want to have that, baby bear feel to me, to my work. And so while my hope is, and I will make an announcement when I'm able to open up more slots, because I do feel that I just feel called to support more clients this year. But right now I'm staying put with what feels to me right now to be fully booked. And that means I only have one slot left. So all that is to say, if you're interested, and you don't even have to know if you want to commit, I always start with a free call. We sort of explore what's going on in your business and see if we're a good fit. I'm really honest about my approach, and if what's going on in your business is in my sweet spot. And if I think I can help you, then I'll invite you to work with me. And if I don't think that I'm the absolute best fit for you, I probably know somebody who is. So hop on a call with me. If nothing else, it'd be a really cool opportunity to connect, see what's going on in your business. I can give you some tips. But like I said, I'm looking for that, or I'm looking for that one additional person until my next spots open up, which looks like it's going to be April for now. Okay. Have a lovely week. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you for listening. Last year was such an amazing celebration for me, but it was so a team effort. And what's so beautiful is that I was able to support my clients in a deeper way because of the way that I ran my business, because of the way that I served them. I was able to grow a team. So not only did I triple my income, but some of that income went to my team, right? So other people are benefiting from that aspect as well. And I was able to really dive into some of these lessons. And like I said, I'll keep sharing these with you because I think it's really helpful when you want to believe that you can run your business on your own terms. You want to believe that you can scale with ease in the way that feels good to you, and that you can balance personal and professional. And I think when we have examples of reality of those things happening, then we know they're not just dreams and aspirations and hopes and like beliefs, but they're actually fucking real. And that's why I share this with you. This is not just my celebration. This is my team celebration. And this is a celebration in entrepreneurship in general. And I'm going to keep sharing. I'm going to keep telling you what's going on. I'm going to keep telling you what I believe to be the truth. Because I believe in doing work you love and doing it in a way that you love and getting out of the shoulds. And so I ran a business last year, successfully tripled my income, brought on new team members, supported my clients, and I still had all these neck challenges, right? And things that I had to do differently. I wasn't typing away. I wasn't on Facebook. I was not actually engaging on Facebook and Instagram. And I run an online business, right? So there are ways to do it your way. And I'm here to support you, whether you are a one-on-one client of mine or a follower or a member of this group. All right, I will stop talking. Have a lovely week. Talk soon. See you next week, same time.